Jasmine Carter's alarm buzzed sharply at 4:45 a.m., rousing her from a dream of open fields and distant laughter. Memories of her mother's sharecropping past, a life of humble toil and hard-won hope. She lay still for a moment, fingers brushing the worn quilt that covered her and 8-year-old Mia. In the soft glow of her bedside lamp, Jasmine watched her daughter's restless breathing, reminded anew of whom she fought for each day. Slipping out of bed, Jasmine dressed in meticulous silence, a white blouse pressed perfection, a charcoal blazer that lent authority to her willowy frame, and a string of pearls inherited from her grandmother, a talisman of resilience. She braided Mia's hair with practiced precision, pausing at each gentle tug to whisper, "Mommy's going to do great things today." Mia's half-sleep mouthed, "I know," buoyed Jasmine's spirits as she gathered her keys and laptop bag. In the kitchen, Jasmine brewed a single cup of coffee strong enough to fortify her resolve. She packed Mia's lunchbox, turkey sandwiches with cheese stars, apple slices, and a note that read, "Be brave, be kind, be you," under fluorescent hallway light. She kissed Mia's forehead and slipped out, closing the door with the softest of clicks so as not to disturb her daughter's dreams. By 5:20 a.m., Jasmine was already on the first of 3 trains, each bound to NovaCore's downtown campus. The platforms were nearly empty at this hour, but the urgency of her stride betrayed her determination. She clutched a battered Kindle loaded with coding reference guides, flipping through chapters on network security while waiting for her transfer. The screech of arriving carriages echoed her heartbeat's rhythm, a constant reminder of the pace she kept against time and expectation. A woman in a bright scarf nodded politely at Jasmine, though their eyes told different stories. The commuter's silent admiration contrasted with the unspoken tension Jasmine felt keenly in her chest. Another transfer, another train. By 6:15 a.m., she stepped onto NovaCore's gleaming plaza, tall glass towers shimmering in the morning haze. Behind her, the city stirred awake. Before her, another day in the trenches of corporate stratagem. At her desk on the 20th floor, Jasmine's workstation hummed with incoming streams of encrypted traffic. She wore noise-canceling earbuds tuned to soft classical music, a lifeline of calm amid the digital storm. Scanning through logs from the prior night, she identified a handful of suspicious login attempts, likely automated probes by overseas threat actors. The thrill of thwarting a potential breach never dimmed, even after 5 years on the job. She deployed custom scripts she'd written to isolate the malicious packets, then documented her countermeasures in a neatly formatted report that would never see the light of day on the corporate bulletin. Her phone vibrated with a text from Mia's teacher. "Mia was very proud of the note you left. She said you're her hero." Jasmine's throat constricted. She typed back, "That's my girl," then sank into the office's ergonomic chair, steeling herself for the day's real challenge. Navigating NovaCore's hierarchy, where competence often took a back seat to politics. At 9 a.m., Jasmine joined the weekly sprint planning meeting. She listened as her supervisor, Richard Hale, lauded the sales team's projections. When the discussion turned to data mining tools, she raised her hand to suggest a novel algorithm that would filter false positives, potentially saving hours of manpower. Richard's gaze flicked to her and away again. "Let's stick to the established protocols," he said, voice firm yet dismissive. A junior analyst echoed Richard's stance, and the moment passed. The rest of the meeting was a déjà vu of corporate theater until, at lunch, Jasmine received an encrypted notification from the intrusion detection system she'd built. The alert flagged outbound data streams to an unregistered IP in Eastern Europe. She clicked into the logs. Terabytes of user profile data, rerouted through an offshore proxy. Frown deepening, Jasmine cross-referenced the IP with recent DNS records and discovered the proxy belonged to Blackwood Ventures, an entity with no public footprint. By 1:45 p.m., Jasmine assembled a concise slide deck, time-stamped packet captures, server hop diagrams, and decrypted email headers naming internal stakeholders. She packaged it all into a secure PDF, then requested a private meeting with Richard in his glass-wall corner office. She set her laptop on the polished mahogany table and spoke clearly. "I've uncovered evidence that NovaCore is routing user data through unauthorized offshore servers. This violates our policy and potentially federal statutes." Richard leaned back, steepling his fingers. Misplaced logs, he said after a moment, or misinterpreted code. He tapped his tablet, swiping through Jasmine's slides dismissively. If you can't stick to your role, cybersecurity, you're overstepping. This company has protocols for audit. Follow them. He paused, eyes narrowing. Be careful, Jasmine. She rose, heart pounding. The threat was implicit, but clear, yet something in her throat uncoiled, a mixture of indignation and resolve. I'll follow the proper channels, she replied, voice steady. But I will not let our customers' trust be violated. Richard's lips curled into a half-smile. We'll see. Once back at her desk, Jasmine quietly pinged Luis Mendoza, a senior network engineer with a reputation for discretion. His response was immediate. Meet me at the North Campus coffee bar in 1 hour. Jasmine arrived to find Luis nursing a black coffee, eyes wary. They spoke in hushed tones amid the clink of mugs. Jasmine laid out her evidence. Luis's face became ashen. We've seen anomalies, he admitted, but slipping into Blackwood's domain. I thought those paths were dead ends. We need corroboration. Financial trails, emails, timestamp logs. They agreed to meet after hours in an unused conference room. As the sun dipped below the skyline, they gathered laptops, external drives, and her grandmother's old ledger, symbolic of the hard work that fueled Jasmine's ethos. At 7:30 p.m., they slipped into the deserted building under the pretense of system maintenance. The fluorescent hallways echoed with their quiet footsteps. Jasmine connected to mainframe with a specially provisioned admin account. Luis monitored the network switches. They pieced together a timeline. Monthly data dumps to Blackwood Ventures, disguised as routine backups. Encryption keys spiral back to NovaCore exec emails, and bank transfers clinch a financial motive. Millions earmarked for offshore shell accounts. Their exhilaration was palpable, proof that could topple an empire. But as dawn approached, red lights blinked on the security panels. Jasmine's badge failed at the door, alarms thrummed. A heavy-set guard appeared at the corridor's end. Hey, what are you doing? The guard's flashlight beam cut across her face. Luis ducked behind a server rack, signaling Jasmine to follow. Through here, he hissed, pressing a maintenance release. The door swung open. Jasmine sprinted, breath ragged, into the night's cool air. Luis lingered just long enough to hold off the guard, then vanished into the labyrinthine corridors. Outside, Jasmine's legs trembled, but every fiber of her being burned with righteous fury. She would expose as corruption, whatever the cost. Over the next week, Jasmine and Luis fortified their dossier. They exported decrypted email chains, traced fund transfers, and mapped the clandestine network routes. Every file was meticulously annotated, redundancies cross-checked, every digital footprint cataloged. Simultaneously, they scouted a reputable journalist, Tasha Bryant, whose investigative byline was synonymous with corporate accountability. Tasha agreed to meet in a quiet Manhattan cafe, her laptop adorned with stickers from previous exposés. Over lattes and scones, Jasmine presented the top-secret cache. Tasha's pen flew across her notebook as she plotted the narrative, a whistleblower's identity concealed until a climactic reveal, then a public unmasking that would leave no room for equivocation. We'll live-stream the evidence at the shareholders' meeting, Jasmine proposed, voice hushed but resolute. Tasha nodded, excitement and gravity mingling in her gaze. The week before the meeting, Jasmine's life became a tightrope. In the office, she maintained absolute composure, smiling at colleagues, troubleshooting routine incidents, and even mentoring a newcomer on data loss prevention. Privately, her phone buzzed with anonymous warnings. Stop digging or you'll regret it, read one text. A second showed a photo of Mia walking home from school. Jasmine's blood ran cold. She forwarded it to Tasha, whose team tapped law enforcement contacts for protective measures. Yet Jasmine's fear never outweighed her conviction. Each night she reviewed the playback of Mia's laughter, of the way her daughter's eyes lit up at bedtime stories of heroes who dare to stand against overwhelming odds. Jasmine resolved that morning she would not retreat. On the eve of the quarterly shareholders' gala, Jasmine sat in her modest apartment, laptop open, routers humming in the corner. She rehearsed her on-camera introduction, perfected the timing of a network override, and tested the satellite uplink with Tasha's tech team. Notes were pinned to her corkboard. Every contingency, every fallback plan. Mia stirred in her sleep. Jasmine watched her for a moment, patterns of moonlight dancing on the walls. "Mommy's coming home," she whispered, pressing her palm to the glass of the window. She packed the routers into her briefcase alongside her pursuit of justice. Hard drives, adapters, power banks. The weight of each item felt monumental, symbols of an impending collision between truth and terror. The following morning, NovaCore's headquarters glittered with anticipation. Chandelier lights reflected off polished marble floors as shareholders in tailored suits networked over champagne. Jasmine and Luis checked in at the IT support desk. Surprise, surprise, before slipping behind the AV control booth. Tasha's team was set up in a van parked across the street, laptops ready for the global live stream. In the ballroom, the CEO stepped to the podium, greeted by thunderous applause. He began with platitudes: profit growth, market domination, unwavering commitment to customer privacy. Jasmine clenched her teeth. Minutes into the CFO's dry recitation of figures, she and Luis exchanged a knowing glance. Jasmine's fingers danced across her secure laptop, executing the payload. Suddenly, the massive projection screen stuttered, then went dark. A hush fell so deep it swallowed murmurs whole. Jasmine held her breath as the audience shifted in their seats. Luis's hand on her shoulder was the only reassurance she needed. Then, in stark white against black, bold letters emerged. Project Blackwood, NovaCore's hidden data trail exposed. The hush crumbled into gasps. Slides began to roll. Red box server logs, offshore account ledgers, confidential emails with exec signatures. Tasha's steady, resonant voice filled the hall. For months, NovaCore Industries has covertly diverted customer data through shell entities, generating illicit profits in secret bank accounts. These documents implicate the CEO, CFO, and multiple board members in a systemic abuse of trust. The CEO's face flushed a deep plum. Richard Hale's mouth hung open. Security rushed toward the booth, but Jasmine's override locks held firm. The secondary satellite feed ensured Tasha's live stream could not be interrupted. Viewers around the world watched as evidence unfolded in real time. Emails time-stamped at 2 a.m. proved board approval. Spreadsheets traced profit distribution to untraceable accounts. Jasmine stood, voice unwavering, meeting the camera head-on. "I am Jasmine Carter. I chose to stand for every customer whose privacy was stolen. Today, we reclaim the truth." A roar of stunned acknowledgement rose from the audience. Reporters scrambled to capture her words. In the ensuing chaos, regulators activated immediate investigations. Share prices plummeted. Emergency press conferences were called. Minutes after the reveal, mainstream news tickers heralded Whistleblower topples tech giant, and single mother exposes corporate crime. Jasmine's phone rang nonstop. Interviews, podcast invitations, offers to speak before Congress. She returned home to Mia's expectant hug. The world's adulation softened into a mother's comfort. Richard Hale was escorted out in handcuffs. The CEO and CFO were placed on administrative leave. NovaCore's board faced federal inquiries. Investors sued for breach of fiduciary duty. Luis received exculpatory letters clearing his name and a job offer at an ethics-driven security firm. Tasha's article became a definitive account of corporate malfeasance in 2025. Months later, Jasmine stood before a ribbon-cutting ceremony at Carter CyberSafe's new headquarters, a modest building repurposed from an old community center. Children in colorful jackets gazed up at computers loaded with cybersecurity tutorials. Volunteers cheered, and Mia, now wearing a junior cyber defender badge, led Jasmine by the hand. Jasmine addressed the crowd. "We've learned that truth has power. One whistleblower can ignite a movement. One mother's love can topple giants. Here, we empower the next generation to defend their data, to speak truth to power, and to know they belong in tech, no matter their background, their gender, or the color of their skin." As confetti fluttered and cameras clicked, Jasmine caught Mia's eye. Her daughter's smile was the first sunrise of a new era. Jasmine felt a swell of pride deeper than any corporate bonus. She had not only secured her daughter's future, but had changed the world. One line of code, one act of courage, one belief in justice at a time.